Hello, everyone. We're delighted to have you join us today. I'm Larry Lang, a board member of ACB, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this installment of ACB Connects. These sessions are sponsored by the Association of Concert Bands, an international nonprofit organization whose mission is to foster excellence in concert band music through performance, education, and advocacy. We have just a few items before we begin today. ACB Connects is being recorded. Today's session will be archived along with other previously recorded sessions on the ACB Connects page on the ACB website. We welcome your questions. If you have any questions or comments for our guests, please submit them in the chat addressed to everyone, and as time allows, they will be addressed. With us today is my friend and fellow trombonist and conductor, Johan de Meij. All of us in the band community know Johan's indelible contributions to our profession. His award-winning original compositions, symphonic transcriptions, and film score arrangements have garnered him international acclaim and have become permanent fixtures in the repertoire of renowned ensembles throughout the world. He is in high demand as a guest conductor and lecturer, frequently invited to speak about and perform his own works. Johan, it's so good to see you, and we're so honored to have you with us today.
Hi, Larry. Thanks for the introduction. I'm very happy to talk to you all. I'm looking forward.
We're looking forward to hearing from you, and I'll introduce our moderator. It's Gail Brechting. She's the president of the Association of Concert Bands and the conductor and music director of the West Michigan Concert Winds. Now, Gail, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll have a great discussion with Johan.
Thanks so much, Larry. We appreciate that. And hello, everyone. And Johan, hi, nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
Of course. Hi, Gail. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm very good, thanks. We're so glad to have you here. You're on our advisory council, and that's always a pleasure to have one of our advisory council members working with us and sharing their expertise in any way that they can. And you've been so kind to do that. We really appreciate it. Well, let's just get started. We've got some time here, and we'd like to know a little bit more about you, as well as some of the works that you want to share with us. But maybe we could find out a little bit about who you are, a little bit in regards to like your childhood and like the world of music you grew up in and things like that. We'd like to know.
Good. I'll put it in a nutshell because it's a long story. But I grew up in the Netherlands, in Voorburg. That's in the vicinity of The Hague. And like all of you, I started my to be a musician in the local concert band, wind orchestra in Voorburg, called Forum Hadriani, which is Latin for Voorburg. And I started when I was 15. That's relatively late. Because we don't have music at schools, you know, like people do here in the United States, high school, middle school. So I just started with that local wind band on trumpet. I got my first lessons from the first trumpet player just at his home, and within half a year I was accepted in the band, and I actually switched to cornet. And after a year and a half, our conductor asked if I was interested in switching to trombone, because we had like 7 trumpets and 2 trombones, so he wanted to balance out the band, and I agreed. So I switched to trombone, found another teacher, and I started to play a lot. Also in a youth symphony orchestra, the Hague Youth Symphony, and I started a brass quartet, and I played in all kinds of ensembles. I was a very enthusiastic amateur player. I played everywhere. Fast forward, I wasn't planning on being a musician or a composer or an arranger or anything like that. That all came sort of by accident. So I actually went, after my high school, I went to a teacher training college to be a teacher.
Oh.
Elementary school teacher, and I finished that. I have the diploma. I finished it all. And then I didn't get a job right after I left that college of the university because I had to go into the army.
Oh,
That was still drafted in the 70s. So I went into the army on January 1st of 1976. But then came a very important moment. I was accepted in one of the military bands. So a fanfare band. This is like a brass band. It's a small 36-piece brass ensemble with saxophones. And that was my luck because I enjoyed it so much, and I started on E-flat tuba because there was no trombone opening, and they said, "Do you play tuba?" I said, "Yeah, of course."
of course I do.
I bluffed myself into the band because if I wasn't accepted in the band, I had to go to Germany to sit on a tank for 16 months. You know, I was with the cavalry, so I didn't want to do that. So
Right.
I said, "Sure, yeah, I could play flat tuba," and I could actually because I learned the valves as a young trumpet player, and then
Yeah.
the larger mouthpiece from the trombone. So within a day, I could play the flat tuba.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
May I ask you, did you look to not have to go to the tank? In other words, were you looking for the possibility of getting
Oh,
that
absolutely,
opportunity?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
so you were
did.
looking, trying to figure out, can I use my musicianship? It wasn't something that someone
Absolutely,
else.
yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't want to be a soldier. I mean,
No, no.
that's not me. So, and I enjoyed playing so much. So, in that band, we were playing 7 days a week. And I switched to trombone. I played bass trombone. I played tenor horn, alto horn, whatever was necessary if somebody was sick. So, I became very versatile in playing all the brass instruments and reading different clefs. So, I so much enjoyed it that I started to realize, I don't want to be a school teacher. I want to be a musician.
Hmm.
So there was an audition with the Dutch Marine Band for trombone and euphonium. So I went. I didn't get it. That was a disappointment.
Yeah.
But then the conductor of my wind band where I started heard that I did this audition, and he was playing with the Amsterdam Police Band. He was playing euphonium there. That was the guy who asked me to switch to trombone.
Okay.
And he called me up and he says, "Johan, I heard you did an audition for the Marines, but there's also an audition here in Amsterdam with the Amsterdam Police Band. Would you like to come and play?" I said, "Absolutely." So I went and I won the audition
Wow.
for
And
euphonium.
this was after you got out of the service, the army or whatever.
Right after, yeah.
Yes.
I
Okay.
had one day. I got out of the
One
army
day.
on April 30th of 1977, and May 1st was my first day in Amsterdam. So I started to become a professional musician as of May 1st, 1977. So that's more than 44 years now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's where I started to make arrangements and later composition. Then that's when I started conducting because when I had arrangements out, I had to go to bands to rehearse it. But I also started playing a lot as a freelance in symphony orchestras.
Mhm.
I played with almost all the major symphonies in Holland, including the radio orchestras, etc. Because I had a lot of free time. The police band was a very easy job. I could take off and I could take leave, and play with a radio orchestra.
Now, may I ask you, did they ask you to arrange some things, or did you have some things arranged and offer it?
Yeah, I did everything myself. I started with I broke my leg, my Achilles tendon, and I was in a cast for 6 weeks.
Oh no.
1978. I was just with the band for half a year, and we already tried out some of my classical arrangements that I made just for fun.
Mhm.
And then our percussion player said, "Hey, Johan, you should think of doing something more popular, so that we can play it at our lunch concert." So he said, "Have you thought of ABBA, the music from ABBA?" And I thought, okay, good.
Yeah.
So I was sitting at home with a little organ. That's all I had. And I started to write my first arrangement called Abacadabra.
Yeah.
It's still there. It's published with Molenaar.
Wow.
So when was it? Jan Molenaar, the publisher, he just passed away, unfortunately. He came to one of the rehearsals for something else. I think it was a recording for the music of Henk van Lijnschoten.
Mhm.
And then our then conductor said, "Hey Jan, listen to this." And he played one of my arrangements. It was the Orgia from Danzas Fantásticas from Joaquin Turina. I still have it here. I'm actually going to do it again, just for 44 years
Wonderful.
later. So we played it through, and it sounded very good, and Jan was very impressed. So at the very beginning of my career, I met a publisher, and a week later he accepted my ABBA arrangement, and it was published. So then came a lot more. I did the Ennio Morricone, the Moment for Morricone, became extremely popular, and that was sort of my breakthrough as an arranger.
Yeah.
And I did James Bond 007,
Mhm.
oh God, 57 arrangements I did for Molenaar,
Wow.
including Phantom of the Opera, Cats, Miss Saigon, Annie, so musical arrangements, Star Wars, John Williams.
Wonderful.
And they became very popular, and they still get played. So all the arrangements from the 80s are still there. But then I started to realize, and people started asking me, why don't you start writing original music for wind orchestra, for band?
Yeah.
And that's, I thought, yeah, okay, but I didn't want to do just a little piece of something. I wanted something grand. So I said, you know what, I'm going to write a symphony.
There you go.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself, right?
There weren't many symphonies in those days, I'm talking early 80s. There were
Right.
a few by Ira Gutkovsky and Serge Lançon, and of course there's the Berlioz and the Hindemith and the Persichetti,
Sure.
but just a handful, not dozens.
Right.
So then I got the idea to base my symphony on Lord of the Rings. A friend of mine actually advised me. I spoke with him, and I said, I'm looking for a subject, to like a main theme or something, and I just don't want to call it Symphony Number One.
Yeah.
That doesn't sell.
No, exactly.
So he came with the idea of Lord of the Rings, and I didn't know the book, so I thought, oh, okay. So I started reading the book, and after like 4 chapters, I knew this is it. This is gold. This is fantastic. So I started making sketches, and this is around 1984, and it was ready December 3rd, 1987, and premiered in March 15th, 1988 in Brussels. I have some pictures of that
Okay.
era. Maybe I can show them to you, and I also have some of the original sketches in manuscript that are actually very interesting to look at. So let me share the screen and let me bring up some photos.
While you're doing that, the Symphony Number One is 45 minutes long because of all the different movements. And I guess I have a question in, it kind of captures the listener because of the characters and the landscape that you described through your music. When you were composing it, were you trying to tell that story? I mean, were your goals in the piece initially? What were those goals? Was it to describe a character that you had read about, or the overall story?
Well, it's twofold. The 5 movements, 1, 3, and 5. So Gandalf, Gollum, and hobbits are indeed musical portraits of the main characters from the book. However, movement 2 and 4, Lothlorien, the Elvenwood, and A Journey in the Dark, are very much describing a chapter. That's the big difference between those 2 groups of movements. And I sketched it out. Gandalf first was the 3rd movement. Everything in Gandalf is 3. It's in 3/4. It is in A B A form. It's in E minor. The 3rd the
Mhm.
third step in E. So I tried to make a sort of a
Oh, interesting.
symbolic use of the number 3, like Bach would do it with his numbers in his music.
Fascinating.
But I moved it to movement 1 because it has much more the character of an overture.
Mhm.
So here you see me in 1984, I think, with my left hand making sketches on the piano. That's all I had.
Wow.
And a little moustache here.
Yeah, yes. You definitely look like a college kid.
Yeah. Well, I was 31 then.
Oh, a little bit older then. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, this is much
Oh,
later after winning the Sutter Prize. This was, of course, our dear friend John Bourgeois.
there it is.
Um, this was in Baltimore when the Marine Bands played my piece, and I got the Sutter Award.
Yes.
That was an amazing moment. Then this was my
Absolutely.
first Midwest in 1990 with my dear friend Claire Grundman and of course Fred Fennell.
Aw.
And I didn't have an exhibit then. I sort of was
Look at
able to
that.
set up this in the Ludwig stand, and the next year I had my own booth. So
Oh my goodness, look what you have, where you started. That's amazing.
yeah, but it was still my first piece, and I started to publish it myself.
Mhm.
That was the start of Amstel Music. This is a year later. We're recording with the Royal Military Band, and that CD became very, very popular. It was the first recording, and a very good one. And I actually have a gold CD here because they sold over 25,000 copies, which is,
Wow, Johan, that's so exciting.
yeah. So here's the place where it all started. This is where I lived in Amsterdam in those days.
Mhm.
Um, no, that's not true. The first photo you saw was still in The Hague, where I had my first apartment. And I moved to Amsterdam because I got the job in the police band. And this was my, above the bank, this was my apartment. And uh, this was my room. This is
Ah,
the room.
right.
That's where it all happened.
On that corner.
That's where I finished it.
Amazing.
And this was at the Sutler reception with Mrs. Sutler and Dana Wilson
Mhm.
and what's his name? Rocky Point Holiday. Nelson, Ron Nelson.
Ron Nelson, right, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that.
okay, this is when this was finished and published. I'm very proud. So
Mhm.
this was my first publication with Amstel Music. I started my own publishing company, and I think I was one of the first self-publishing composers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know one guy, a guy Wolframden from England. He was doing that already in the early '80s
Okay.
with Ariel Music. But God, I look so young there.
But you're doing all of these pictures.
I do.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, this is one back in the '84 again
Oh, my goodness. Look at that.
in my old apartment. Yeah.
Are you left-handed? I mean,
Oh
is
yeah,
that
I still am.
okay?
I'm a
Yeah,
left-hand conductor too. Okay, this was the
noticed.
premiere. The premiere in Brussels with Norbert Nozy conducting, and the fabulous band from the Belgium Guides. They are incredible. Um, this was recorded actually, and 25 years later, I was able to get the recording, and I published the CD in the book.
Oh,
Um, where is it? Must have it somewhere. Is it Lord of the Rings 25? 30.
there we go.
So I made a publication with the complete manuscript score that you will see later. So the complete symphony, all written out by hand, of course, plus the CD of the Belgium Guides, plus photos, stories, interviews,
Oh,
sort of a collector's item. Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful. The cover is gorgeous.
Okay, back to the. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Those are the sketches. I want to finish the photos. where? No. Oh no, it's somewhere here. Stuff.
There it goes.
There you go. Photos. Where were we? We
Right
got.
there.
Yeah, got that one.
Yard. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this was also my old apartment, and I got my first little synthesizer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, next to my piano, and I wrote the whole thing on this. It only had 6 voices. So what I would do, I would record a couple of things from the score,
Sure.
and then I would play the rest on piano, just simultaneously to see if it was fitting.
Gotta do what you gotta do, right?
It was crazy, yeah, but I wrote the whole symphony with very limited possibilities.
Oh, you did. Yes.
And this is, okay, this is where I live. This is my first apartment in Scheveningen. Here was the ocean. It was very close to the boulevard and the sea, the North Sea.
Yes.
Wonderful place.
Oh, yes.
And then, oh, this was years later. They did a ballet, and I was in the pit conducting. It was fun.
Really? They did a ballet? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a great production in Canada.
Okay.
And well, this is a poster of the world premiere.
Oh, yes.
In Dutch zie je het groot harmonieorkest van de Gidsen.
Mm-hmm.
Dirigent, conductor Norbert Nozy. Symphony The Lord of the Ring. There's an S missing here. So every year on March 15, I do a little celebration. You know, I post on Facebook and
Yes.
33rd anniversary, and I got a lot of nice reactions then. That's wonderful.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like it was that long ago. I mean, seriously, because I remember when it came out, and it just doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
Yeah,
My
well,
goodness.
this may sound a little dramatic, but this piece really changed my life, you know, in a very nice way.
I'm sure.
It put me on the map as a composer, and I started conducting and traveling and much more lecturing. But I was still playing, of course. So 1988 was a very important year. The symphony premiered. I lost my job in Amsterdam because the police band was dismissed. But I won another edition with a small wind ensemble called the Volharding, which means the perseverance. And that was also very important for my composing career because it was very avant-garde. It was a group of 13 players, 11 winds, a piano and a double bass. And it was founded by Dutch composer Louis Andriessen, who just passed away like a month ago or so.
Oh,
And it was very revolutionary. It was also very political in the beginning. They would play outside, always standing, and they would play on demonstrations against Vietnam and stuff like that. So it was like a protest group.
Oh, and you were
It
in
was a
part of
complete
it.
opposite of a symphony orchestra.
Yeah. Or the
and
police band.
And we would play very contemporary music, minimal music by Louis Andriessen, of course. And I played over 200 world premieres with this group. I played there for 20 years until 2008. But in the meantime, I kept playing with symphony orchestras, and I had my own brass ensemble, the Dutch Brass Sextet, for 14 years. So I was then a freelance player, a conductor, the publisher, an arranger, a lecturer, and I still am. I don't play anymore. That's the only difference.
You stopped doing that, but you
I still have my instruments here in the room.
play when you want to.
As you can see, there's my old E flat
Oh,
tuba.
yes. Oh,
There's my my orange P-bone. There's my trombone. There's my euphonium.
yep.
And well, this is my room.
It's the music room. It's where you live. That's fantastic.
Yeah, this is where I've been for a long time now, 16 months.
And you are in like upstate New York.
Yeah, this is not New York City. We live in Saugerties, which is very close to Woodstock in the Hudson Valley.
Sure,
Beautiful
sure.
place.
Absolutely.
I can show you.
I would like to have you unshare your screen for a moment, and we'll come back to it if that's all right.
Okay, can you see?
Oh.
This is my view.
Oh, look at that! It's beautiful.
It's the Hudson River,
Oh my goodness.
and maybe if you see something silver there, that's the roof of the Fisher Center, Bard College.
Of course.
Yeah, I've been there a lot because they have this fantastic summer festival.
Oh, nice.
Okay, unshare the screen, you said?
For a few minutes, and then we can come back to the scores
Yeah.
that you would like to share with us.
Okay, maybe there are some
um,
questions.
I have a few other questions or some things we can talk about.
Okay.
One of them is we have a mutual friend in Paul Lavender.
Oh, yeah.
Paul and I were in college together. He was a grad student at Central Michigan University when I was an
Fantastic.
undergrad, and he did a lot of arranging at that time for. I'm a trombone player too. We did a lot of arranging for the trombone jazz ensemble and our professor, Dr. Rivard. And and I know he has done some things with some of your music for younger students.
Yes. Paul is a terrific arranger, and he has done 3 arrangements of Lord of the Rings. He simplified it, but he was able to keep the original sound, and that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And they sell better than the original.
Well,
Yeah, of course.
They like them. You got to kind of build it. Right. I have a question. This has always been something that has been fascinating to me, was when I found out that your music was written before the movie was done, and the production of the movie, The Lord of the Rings, and we know which one came first is yours.
Yeah.
And the one thing, because you started yours in like 1984, you said, and it came out in 87 or something. Right. And the thing that I was curious about was with Howard Shore was the one that ended up doing the music. Have you ever spoken with him, or is there anything you were like, wow, that's kind of the same thing I was trying to do? Or did he listen to yours? Do you know anything about that?
I've never met him.
Oh, really?
I did send the score to Peter Jackson and the CD, the Royal Military Band CD, and I got a nice letter back from Online Cinema, or what's the name? Cinema, their production company, that they already had a composer. So that was Howard Shore. I've never met him, and I don't think I'm sure he must have come across my music.
Well, he must have, and you've heard it, obviously. I think we all have.
Yeah.
And heard your beautiful works too. And, there really is, you're both classically trained and fantastic musicians. So yeah, I just wondered if you felt when you listened to it that there was some things in there that were like what you did, or anything that you would say. No. Yeah, I was just curious.
He was smart enough not to steal from me, because that would be a problem.
Of course,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I actually tried to write kind of film music when I wrote the symphony. I really wanted to make the characters like Gandalf and Gollum visible for the audience, but just through music. And Howard Shore's job, of course, was to underscore what's on the screen. That's a totally different approach.
Yes.
And I think he did a terrific job, and with the choirs, and yeah, he's a very good composer.
Well, it's good. That was fascinating to me, because I was a young teacher at the time, and I thought you had done it, because I didn't realize yours had come out so much sooner. So I'm just being honest here, thinking and telling the truth, that I really was surprised when I found out that they were 2 very separate things, which in fact they were. But, like you mentioned something about you were in the band that was part of the Vietnam time and the protests and all of that.
Yeah.
And it's been said that a lot of the music that was part of Tolkien was that whole concept of fighting against the bad guy, in other words,
Right,
a simple way of saying it, which is exactly what you seem to have been able to do, of course, with your music too, to enhance the books and find, the beauty as well as the scariness and the what the characters were. In fact, we had a question that came in on when we put out the registration, people could send questions in.
Oh, I see.
One of the questions came from a member and said that they were interested to know how in one of the places that the saxophone mouthpieces were taken off to create the sound of a dragon.
Oh,
they wondered how you came about with that sound.
That's way later. That's in Symphony No. 5.
Okay.
So I was going to talk about that because.
All right, we'll wait until then. That's fine.
Yeah, but
I just wanted to make sure I got that person's question.
But yeah, let me answer the question, because otherwise we may forget it. So 30 years later, the university in Valparaiso with Jeff Dobler, I think he's in the room. Hi, Jeff. They commissioned me to write another Tolkien piece, and that became Symphony No. 5, which I symbolically named Return to Middle Earth.
Mhm.
And it's not about Lord of the Rings. It's more like the Silmarillion or Middle Earth in general. And in Middle Earth was this big dragon, Ancalagon, Imor the Black, uh, who made this big sound, and flames coming out of his mouth. So I thought, I want to put into the music. So I asked the saxophones to take off their mouthpiece and go. It's a great effect.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe I can, if we have time, I can play it. I have a good video of the Symphony No. 5, but that's a total different story. It's with soprano, youth choir,
Mhm.
more or less the same instrumentation,
It
more or
is.
less the same length. It's like 44 minutes,
Yeah. It's
um,
fascinating.
but completely different. There are some themes that I used in Symphony No. 5 that came from Symphony No. 1.
Okay, and we can talk about that. Is there one character in particular that you either, align yourself with, or that you really liked the way you wrote for that character? Is there one in particular that you kind of like the best in the books?
Yeah, I could be a hobbit. I'm a happy guy. I would like to sit down and drink a beer, in the pub, and I like their lifestyle if they're not at war.
Right.
or Gandalf, the more wise, calm,
Mhm.
fatherly figure. Yeah, I could do both.
Right. I could see you doing both. That's the one. That's true. I mean, you could play Gandalf with your beauty,
Yeah,
with
if I let my hair grow, yeah,
your
yeah.
hair now. Absolutely. Well, let's proceed. But I know you have some things to show us in
Yeah,
regards to the score and the parts. Would love to see that.
let me go share the screen again, and
Mhm.
I have some PDFs of the early sketches.
Look at that.
Let's see. Move this out of the way. Is this visible?
Yes.
Okay. So it says Gandalf fanfare. Well, this is exactly the opening. See? Ba-bum, bum, bum, chum, taka-da-dee, ba-bum, bum, bum. And here are some tryouts. What I was going to do with the woodwinds. And this is. I still do this. I still make written sketches
Hmm.
by hand. Here with a pencil.
Hmm.
This is from the first move of the chorale, what I call the Mitrandir chorale, which is Gandalf. But there's something interesting, and I wonder if somebody sees it. The way I notate. You can see at 111, this is maestoso, and there's D minor, A, D minor, C, F, G minor 6.
Or,
I sort of do the jazz notation here, C,
right. I
E,
noticed
A.
that.
Yeah, I find that very easy. But there's something strange. Does somebody see it?
There's no time.
Um, no.
Okay.
Well, it's 3/4, but that's on
Well, I
the
just thought
previous
perhaps.
page. Yeah.
Okay. Not seeing anybody answering in the chat here. So,
If somebody sees it, then you can put it in the chat.
that's right. If you see something that he's
But look at
asking.
the first chord here in bass clef. That's D minor. See, D, D, F, D,
Right.
F, and then A major.
Mm-hmm.
Now look at the treble clef. What do you see?
That it's not the same.
It's not the same. No.
Yeah.
What's his first chord?
Yeah, it's a C chord or an E chord. I can't really see it very well.
E minor. But
It's minor. There we
so
go. I just can't see it. There we go. Yeah,
I'll
E minor.
I'll reveal the secret. This is B flat.
Ah, it's in
This
B
is
flat. Okay,
I
sure.
was so used to thinking in B flat
Mm-hmm.
because of the trumpet, and I still do this. I go then blah. I was trying out
Yeah.
the fingering.
That's
So
fascinating. So your
and
brain's
it's
working in two different ways.
yeah. So the bass clef is in C,
Mhm.
and the treble clef is in B flat. Why? Because I found that easier.
You
I
think that
could
way,
see
sure.
the fingering for the trumpet easier, etc. But when I became a trombone player, I was reading in C. So
Mhm.
all the sketches are like that.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Of course, not the full score. This is
Yeah.
the first page of the full score, all by hand.
Do you still do everything by hand?
No, I work with Sibelius.
Okay.
and you will see this later. And Note Performer, that's the
Okay.
sound program.
Okay.
Now, what I also do is, besides notes, I call them roadmaps.
Mhm.
Of course, in Dutch, it says structuurschets, a sketch of the structure.
Okay.
And this is the structure of the second movement. See, lento rubato, allegretto grazioso, 2 flutes, 2 oboes, oboe. And I followed this exactly. This is the whole second
Yeah.
movement mapped out.
It sure is.
Yeah, it's hard to read.
It is. Well,
And this is the rough sketch of the second movement. You know, the mysterious clarinet solo.
yes.
Okay, and this is the end of the second movement, which goes immediately into the third movement, the crazy golem. This is the flutes going da 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 dee 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 dee, sort of, and the timpani goes boom 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 boom. That's Frodo's heartbeat, because he was very shocked by a little earlier in the piece in the mirror of Galadriel. He saw the eye of Sauron, you know, with
Yes.
flames around it, and that he was very upset. That's where the timpani goes boom 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 boom. You know, just his heartbeat.
Oh my.
Here it comes,
Love it.
and that's also the end of the symphony, if you remember.
It is.
Pom, 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 pom. It's symbolic because the very last, where is it? I think here. This is the end of the symphony, where the Gandalf theme one more time comes back. Da dee da da dee dee, and da dum da da dum da dee is from Lothlorien. And then here, very peaceful, no decrescendo.
Oh.
So bum, 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 G major. But this is the Grey Havens. It's the final chapter of the book, where Gandalf and Frodo sail away
Right.
to the horizon,
Mm-hmm.
and they may die. So this is where the heartbeat comes to an end, and that's the symbolic end of the symphony.
Fascinating. I love all the symbolism in it.
Yeah. Now this is an infamous passage, you know. The infamous 3/8 that puts off a lot of people. It's hard because you're on the beat and then you're after the beat. So
Right.
then this is interesting because this is something I didn't use in the symphony. This was the first sketch for Gollum, and this he comes out of the cadenza, and then my first Gollum melody was this, where it says here, bizarre. Well, that didn't make the symphony because I thought it wasn't Gollum enough. So I later came with the crazy 6/8, you know, but this landed in another piece called La Quintessenza. Some of you may recognize it. I just recycled it in a later piece. So this became the main theme of La Quintessenza.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And this is the roadmap for the fourth movement. The ending of the fourth movement, beginning of the fifth movement, the Hobbit's hymn.
Love that one.
Yeah. So I would like to play a beautiful performance from 2018 with the United States Marine Band. I had the honor to be invited to conduct a concert for the 30th anniversary of the symphony with them, and that was an amazing, was one of the highlights of my career. Shall I do the third movement just for fun?
Sure. Whichever one you would like. And you know, the last month we had a conversation with Colonel Fettig, who you worked with this.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I can actually send the entire recording and a 15-minute interview to all of you
Wonderful.
Can I put that in the chat? Just the links?
Yes, go ahead. Sure, and we can pull it out of there.
Okay, I'll do this
Thank you.
after. This looks like the soprano sax, so. Yeah, this is the end of the second movement. And it goes right into the third. Sounds good?
Yes. Mute our own, we can mute ourselves, I think, Johan, please.
Yeah, I'll turn it up, the volume a little bit.
Wow. May
What a
I
band!
ask? Oh, what a band.
What a band! Huh? I know.
Technique. Oh my goodness. How did you decide on a soprano sax for Gollum?
Well, that was easy. There's only one instrument that can depict Gollum, and that's the soprano saxophone. I think he can do
Yes,
this very soft and mean and loud and screaming like a cat. And so,
absolutely. Well, it's like really salty and sassy and
yeah,
sweet, all kind of mixed together, isn't it? And
yeah. And
oh,
I asked the player to add some growls and some flatterzunge and whatnot. So
oh, wow. And it just describes him. I mean, of course, those of us who've seen, I mean, you were doing the description without seeing anything. It was all from what people read and maybe some drawings, perhaps, but having seen the movie, now you can put that to it. And I'm not discrediting it in any way, but it makes, for me, it was like, that is exactly what Gollum is. And you captured that long before a movie.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
You really did. That
I
is
see.
just,
I see a question that how do you notate the sax brr in the score? Well, it's not. I asked the player,
oh,
and I kept making. I still make changes. Can you believe it? After 33 years, when I still make.
really?
No, let's try this. For instance, the flutes. I asked them to make a little downward glissando, and they did, and so did the clarinet. I've never done it before, but it sounds good.
It sounds really good.
It makes it more slimy, and yeah,
Yeah, it really imitates what the trombone was able to do before it.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, which is really good. What a trombone player. Also, my
Yeah,
goodness.
for I need a trumpet section. The ding, 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 ding. Fantastic.
Almost faster
That's
than
how it should be played,
almost
Good
faster
double
than the
time.
snare drum was doing it. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, that is fantastic. Oh,
yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that with us and getting a chance to actually hear the Marine Band recording of it, which we'll
Oh
have
yeah, I'm
along with
gonna
it.
share that. Let's see.
Mhm.
Let's do
Sure,
it. That's
absolutely.
so. What I sent you is the link to the YouTube, and there's also this interview with Jason Fedek, which is very nice.
Yes, I watched that. That is very nice. And for our members listening, it is something that's really fun to go and watch because he talks a lot about that. Was for the anniversary. Am I correct? That's why you were doing it with the
Yeah.
band.
Let's
Mhm.
see. I'm not very good at everyone in meeting.
Sure. The other thing while you're doing that, just
Did
to
you
be,
get it? Yeah.
yes, I did. Thank
Okay,
you.
so the first one is the full performance, all 5 movements, and then this is a 15-minute interview with Jason,
Yes.
and it's about the making of the Lord of
Right.
the Rings. A lot of things that I told today, I also said in the interview. So
Absolutely. Yes, I've seen that. Now you've won many awards, not just for this, but I would assume many along the line of these types of awards. Can you tell us a little bit about what those were and what they've meant to you?
yeah, I've won several composition competitions. The most important one was the first one, the Sutter Prize.
Yes.
Right after the symphony came out, I submitted it, and I was chosen the winner. To my big surprise, it was, my God, I partied after that.
I bet you did.
Yeah, and it was of course fantastic for the piece. Everybody started to get to know it, and then I got another prize in Holland from the Dutch government, and Casanova has won the first prize, my cello concerto. The Red Tower in Oman, of all places, first prize.
Really?
Some second prizes. The Symphony No. 3 won in Cochano, the planet Earth. So
Oh, yes.
that's always great. I just sent in 2 pieces for a competition, and it's always fun, if you win. It's like a lottery. It's like a casino, but
Ah, but
yeah.
you're such a fine composer. Why not? Now you work with some other ensembles. I mean, you get a chance to do quite a bit of conducting. It looks like, as I did my research. And you want to talk about those for just a little bit? How did you get over to Japan? That made me curious, as well as in Venezuela.
I was invited in 2014 in Fukuoka, Kyushu. That's on the southern part of the country. It's sort of like this, and then there's this island, Kyushu. Fukuoka is the regional capital, and they had their 10th anniversary, and they asked me to come conduct Lord of the Rings. So, and that was a tremendous success. I really had a good bond with the musicians, and they played their heart out. So after the concert, the manager asked me if I wanted to become their principal guest conductor. I said, yeah, of course.
Oh,
So
of course.
I've been there since 2014. I go every year.
Wonderful.
I go back in December, which was of course postponed from last year, but
Sure.
and they're phenomenal. They, I mean,
The wind orchestra, right?
yeah, it's a very good group. I mean, and they also let me have cellos like with the Marine Band. So I have full orchestration, you know, everything I want, double bassoon, harp, no problem.
Oh,
And
exciting.
they are good. I mean,
Yes,
maybe not as good as the Marine Band, but they are excellent. They're very professional and they're very motivated. You know, the Japanese are they want to do things right, and they do. So I can't wait to go back to them in December. Right after the Midwest, I have to fly from Chicago right to Tokyo. Yeah.
Almost at Christmas time then.
Yeah, no, I'll be back the 24th.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the
And
concert's on the 23rd. So
tell us about the Youth Wind Orchestra down in Venezuela.
yeah, I was invited there in 2010 was it 2010 for the first time?
Hmm.
And I also went back there every year. I became one of their
Really?
regular guest conductors. But unfortunately, that stopped in 16, I think, because there were all kinds of political problems. They closed the school, and oh my God, it broke my heart, and it still does. I mean, they were phenomenal. They were absolutely amazing. If there are lots of YouTubes if you look up my name and Simon Bolivar Youth Wind Orchestra, I did all the symphonies, all the solo concertos, and boy, they were phenomenal. But unfortunately, I haven't been back since 2016. It's so sad.
Shame. That's a real shame. And then are you still with the New York Wind Symphony?
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm also their principal guest conductor. That's a regional wind orchestra here of all professional players,
Hmm.
and they're also wonderful. They're all friends,
That's
and
fantastic. I know when I first met you in Midwest, personally got to meet you, it was when you were doing your Symphony No. 3, The Planet Earth, an ode to Mother Earth. And you were working, I believe, with your wife, if I'm not mistaken, on the video of that. And it's
yeah,
such a I mean, this is something that is so true all the time. I mean, everything that you were trying to make us understand through this visual as well as the listening is just so important and so beautiful. It's timeless. Would you like to talk about that for a moment?
yeah. A lot of people ask me what my favorite piece of my own compositions, and everybody thinks it's Lord of the Rings, but it's actually my Third Symphony is my darling, because it's yeah. I'm very happy with the outcome, how it became, and it was my first work for orchestra. It's the original is for orchestra, not for band.
Mhm.
And then 15 years later, Diane, my wife, said, "You know, this music is dedicated to her. It's so beautiful, but it screams for images." So she created this amazing movie, and I can send it to you guys.
It is beautiful. Oh my goodness.
It's fantastic, yeah.
It is.
Let's see, it comes with a password, which is Moeder Aarde. That's Mother Earth in Dutch. So I'll put it in the. Oh,
Thank
where are
you.
we?
Thank you so much. And was this something that you were able to have performed in certain instances or in certain venues when you were able to?
So this is the complete movie of the music, but the idea is to do a live performance with an orchestra or a wind orchestra, big choir, and a big screen. And then you just follow the screen, what's on the screen. Yeah, it has been done a couple of times now. The world premiere was in Düsseldorf in Germany. That was fantastic. It was absolutely phenomenal. I was in the audience, so I could just enjoy it. And so yeah,
That's
and
fantastic.
the movie we give away for free, so you don't have to buy it or something or rent it. It's
That's nice.
it
That's
also has an environmental sort of a message in the second movement. You
yes.
know, where you see a lot of pollution, and then, but it also has some optimism that you know we can still save the planet. But of course, the symphony wasn't written for that purpose. You know, it was just an ode to the earth and an ode to my wife. I didn't have any environmental messages then, but
Intent.
I completely agreed with Diane that she put that into the movie. So
What a very special thing to do as a husband and wife as well. I mean, it's very,
Yeah. So if everyone wants to perform this with his own group, orchestra or wind orchestra, choir, just contact me and we'll send you the film
wonderful.
with a disclaimer and all. So that's all you have to do.
Is it a published work or do you have to rent it?
The wind version is published for sale, and the orchestra version is a rental.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good to know.
I have now 12 orchestral works.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, wink, wink. And it's usual in the orchestral world that they always rent. They don't buy music. In the wind orchestra, it's the opposite. They always buy music. They don't rent, or they don't like it.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Yeah, I looked it up, and it would be something wonderful to do with especially in a community where you have a big choir of some sort, and then the wind group or orchestra, of course.
Yeah, but I have to say it's very difficult. The orchestra and the choir parts are very, very demanding, but it's doable. It's playable. Yeah.
It is, absolutely. Now, we had talked briefly about some of your other works, and you said we'd like to talk a little bit about the Return to Middle Earth. Was there anything more you'd like to add to that? That's your Symphony No. 5.
Yeah, there's something interesting to tell about the lyrics, because there's a soprano solo. There are 6 movements, and 5 of them have lyrics in Elvish.
Yes.
So not in English, but I found a woman in Cleveland who is not only a singer, but she's a linguist. How do you call it?
Right.
Yeah, a scholar, and she speaks Elvish.
She does.
Yes, Ilkorin, and she was able to help me finding some beautiful poems based on Middle Earth and the Lord of the Rings, and she was able to translate it into Elvish. That was my wish, because I wanted to use Elvish to make it very Tolkien-esque.
Yes.
And so we did, yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. And then when you did it with Valparaiso, am I correct? Is that the one?
That was the world premiere. And then
Yeah.
I've done it in Japan and in Germany. I have a beautiful recording. Let me play you a little bit of that, because it's fantastic. And I can also send the whole thing, but there's something interesting in the percussion section. I'm using 4 so-called org drums. Those are the big oil drums, empty of course, upside down.
Yes.
And they use broomsticks, so they're very loud.
Oh, I bet.
Like rough, like the orgs would do, you know. They don't have a little snare drum. No, they come with this big monster, like
monsters.
Yeah, like taiko drums. But then it's an oil drum, and the sound is amazing. So let me play you a little bit of the end of the 5th movement. It's called The War of Wrath, and that's a chapter from the Silmarillion. So that was, I think, the first book that Tolkien wrote before Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits. So Silmarillion comes, then came the Hobbit, and then came Lord of the Rings. Okay. So let me look it up for you guys, and then.
Fascinating how you used all the different types of sounds to instruments that weren't real instruments in some cases.
Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for new things. You know, I have used bottles. I have used soda cans, empty.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know doing
dry leaves in a box. You know, to. Let's see. I haven't shared the screen, have I? No.
No, you're not.
Share.
There we go.
Where should it be? I just played a little bit, not the whole thing, because. So that's the end of the 5th movement. It's absolutely crazy. The choir they're screaming at the top of their voice.
I wondered.
Random stuff. Just scream. Say whatever you like. It doesn't matter. So in this whole movement, the soprano doesn't sing, but the choir, they're stamping their feet. They have rocks in their hand, and they go clang, 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 clang. Let me play it back a little bit, because this was the very end. there's this huge build-up. Krimbatul, to bind them, to find them. That's also Elvish. It's all in a 5/4 measure, like Mars from the planet.
Yes, I can hear it.
Mars, the bringer of war, you know? This is sort of a hint. You can hear the oil drums now, they're in the back of the orchestra, the percussion. And they all have a different pitch. Can you distinguish them?
Good job.
And here the male voices started to stamp their feet. Right, left, right, left, right. Like marching soldiers. That comes out of Lord of the Rings. At 4 movement.
My goodness, that is fascinating what you did. It almost had the cherry blossom song from Japan. Da, 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 da. That was that same little 4 or 5 note. And that's what it reminded me of. Yes.
But that's from the 4th movement of Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
So that's the little hint, and also the horn call. Remember? That's the beginning of the 5th movement, and it's answered by other horns. You know, that's the orc call. So I've also sent this to you guys in the.
Certainly. I love how you've tied so many things together and you have all the symbolism. It's so much a part of what the Lord of the Rings is. If you go back and read the books, it's all about that. That is really what Tolkien intended.
This movement in particular was sort of my protests against war in general, because all the stupid wars like Afghanistan and
Right. Absolutely.
there was sort of my anger, put into the music. You can really hear it at the end. At the end.
Oh, so much. Oh, this has just been fascinating to learn all these little bit deeper information than what most of us get when we get a piece of music from a composer.
Yeah.
That's really
I could talk so much more about Lord of the Rings. I mean, every movement has all the themes, and there's a little more secrets here and there, but
you could
I don't think we have time for that.
You could have a semester class on this, really, in many ways at a university. Would be fascinating.
I use this format when I do a seminar, but
sure.
The last 1.5 years, I've only done it by Zoom. So
absolutely. You have a lot of other fine wind band works along with these big symphonies, of course. One of them I was just kind of YouTube, surfing a little bit to find some things. And one that I saw that you've done fairly recently in San Antonio was The Wind in the Willows, which is a very different feel to all the things we've been listening
to. Oh God, yeah.
And I think I'm going to try to do that myself with my group sometime this season. I just bought myself the book again. I haven't read it since I was a child.
It's a lovely book. It's one of the best children's books ever written. And
it is.
You know what? It has a sentimental journey for me, because my mom would read it to me in Dutch, of course, when I was a little boy. So it's a lovely piece. Yeah.
And I noticed you were with the Heart of Texas concert band just in February, just this past February.
I know
that the masks and in the church or something.
I know it was in the midst of COVID, but they did it, and it was in a big church. Everybody was singing part. The audience had masks.
Yes.
And then my concert in Portugal last month, there was also no audience. It was with the National Police Band, and they were all sitting wide apart.
Really?
But we did it. We streamed it, and so
you did the Lord of the Rings with them?
No, I did a new piece for baritone saxophone and wind orchestra. It's called Mondriaan. Mondriaan is a Dutch painter from the last century, and that's a whole different story. But
yes.
But it's solo for bari sax, a complete concerto.
And wind orchestra?
Yeah, bari sax and wind orchestra.
Wow, and that's your most recent piece?
One of them, yeah. I've done so much during COVID. I have a whole list of new stuff. That all has to it's all still waiting for its premiere.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah, I wrote a piece for the Dutch Marine Band called Rotterdam 1945. This will premiere in October. And I wrote a piece called The Painted Bird. And that will premiere in Williamsville, near Buffalo, in March of next year.
Okay.
And I'm almost ready with a piece for the Rockville Concert Band from Maryland. It's called The Year 2020. So, the year 2020.
Oh, I can't wait to hear these pieces. That's fantastic. I understand you were supposed to premiere a piece with the Buffalo group, with Amy.
No, this was Symphony No. 5, and that's moved to next April.
Okay, just perform with them.
The Buffalo and Niagara Concert Band, yeah.
Yes. We had a convention there, I think in 2016, and I had the opportunity. I think you were part of that because they had composers in. I know.
Yeah.
So I know that.
I must say, I'm proud to be a member of ACB, because I see the importance of community bands, and I grew up in a community band. In myself, in Holland we only have community bands, no school bands. So.
Right.
So that's why I strongly support this wonderful organization, and I hope more and more people will start to play in wind orchestras, in community bands. It's important for the community, it's healing. The nice thing about it is that, there's a doctor and there's a nurse and there's a 15-year-old boy and everybody's welcome. The social aspect of the wind band is fantastic with the community band. Very important to build a good community,
Absolutely. This is all coming together so nicely with the questions that I had intended. And that was just, I love the fact that you believe in community music making. That's why I'm sure whoever the president was that invited you to be on our advisory council at that time, it's important
Yeah.
it's music is forever. Yeah, it's music is lifelong. There's
Yeah.
many things you can't do your whole life, but one of them is to make music with your friends. And I have a question here. You might have just seen it. The Denver concert band's currently playing your Loch Ness,
Oh,
and they were
just in that.
wondering,
Hey, just in that.
yeah, and they were wondering if there's anything you could share, or they
Oh
could
yeah,
share.
Loch Ness I wrote right after Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
And I also used some material that I didn't use in Lord of the Rings in Loch Ness.
mm,
That was some sketch that I have, and I couldn't put it in the symphony, so I just moved it to the next piece. But yeah, that's also like a symphonic poem. You know, this describes the lake in the morning with mist and mysterious, and of course everybody thinks there's a monster. But I actually don't say anything musically about the monster. I just leave it to the imagination of the listeners. And then there's a bagpipe theme, you know, and a storm and a good ending. So yeah, it's a fun piece. It's
that's wonderful.
it was my number 2. It was right after Lord of the Rings. I read in 1990.
Oh, so it's one you wrote quite a long time ago. We'd like to open up for any more questions for the members who are here. If you have questions, and can type it into the chat. We're at the point of doing some Q&A if you'd like to.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell a little bit about the arrangement, the Mendelssohn?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, that was one of my plans. Let's see, I'll share the screen again. This is an arrangement that I also made recently during the COVID, just for fun. It's the incidental music of Mendelssohn's Midsummer Night's Dream. And it's very challenging for the woodwinds, but I love the music. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. So what I did for you is I compared the 2 versions. This is the original, and this is my version for winds. So I use this as a tool to show students or musicians, okay, this is how you transcribe and work for orchestra into a band piece. And you can see the differences, of course. A larger instrumentation. I transposed it because the original is in E and B major, and that's of course not good for
not so good for the
E
wing
flat
band.
alto saxophone.
Right.
double sharps and all. So
Mm-hmm.
for practical reasons, I transposed it. So this is the original C: 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2 clarinets, 2 bassoons, 2 horns, 2 trumpets, ophicleide, which is like a tuba,
Okay.
timpani,
Right.
and strings.
Mhm.
And the wind orchestra is quite large. I used the piccolo, 2 first and 2 second flutes. I'll explain why I did that later. 2 oboes, English horn, bassoon, E flat clarinets, clarinet 1, 2, 3, bass clarinet, 4 saxophones, 4 horns, 3 trumpets, in which, cornets 1 and 2. I use cornets quite a bit in transcriptions for a certain reason. Then 3 trumpets, 3 trombones, euphonium, tuba, double bass, harp, which is of course not original, mallets, it's not original, and percussion is not original, but I use some percussion in the wedding march,
Okay.
like cymbals and snare drum. So let me play a little bit. I play the score now, the Sibelius score,
Mm-hmm.
and here you can see how I solve the problem of the technique, because
Sure.
you know, it goes very fast, and on string instrument it's all separate. But for the winds I made it made it playable, and as you can see here in the first clarinet, I give rests on different points. See?
Yes.
So the solo clarinet plays instead of all the notes, because that's almost impossible to play.
Right.
So I do this division everywhere in the woodwinds, and that's why I'm using 4 flutes, because the flutes are playing staccato.
Sure.
See? Tap, and that's much more playable than So
Yes, absolutely.
now the beginning is 100% original, although it's not the same key, but I use the same instrumentation. So 2 flutes, 2 bassoons, 2 clarinets,
At the beginning.
2 horns. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to make it sound as Mendelssohn as possible. The harp, pizzicato.
Great.
Okay, so you can see how I use the harp. That was something that came from the violas. Boom, 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 in pizzicato.
Oh,
And the harp is perfect to imitate that. So,
absolutely. And
okay, I'm
you
not
you
going to play the
mentioned
whole
something
thing.
about using, yes, you mentioned something about using cornets for a purpose.
Yes, I use the cornets a little more than the trumpets because they blend a little better with the woodwinds and the horns. And I also use the flugelhorn in the nocturne. So let me scroll down, and then I didn't do the whole overture because the whole overture is like 9 minutes already.
Yes.
So I made a transition into the second movement to the lead, which is with female voices. But I also instrumentated the female voices, and I made a little transition myself
Okay.
to glue the two movements together. So this is not
Good.
Mendelssohn. This is de Meij. Boom, and that's the second movement called lead.
Beautiful transition.
It's gorgeous music, very elegant. I use bells here. Gute Nacht, gute Nacht, gute Nacht.
Oh, so pretty. What would be the playing level of this, do you think? Very pretty. What do you
Yeah.
think the grade level of this would be for
Well,
someone?
for the woodwinds, it's a 5 to a 6,
Okay.
definitely.
Mhm.
And the other parts are not, like the tuba parts are not difficult at all, and they have very little to do. It's almost like in the symphony orchestra, you know, where they have tachet in the next movement, the nocturne, and the only the cornets are playing, I think, and the horns. But
Okay. Okay.
so the nocturne is the third movement. It's the original key, because it was perfect, and it starts again exactly like Mendelssohn with the 8 winds, the 2 flutes, the 2 bassoons, the 2 clarinets, and the 2 horns, like a wind octet.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And you said it was a nocturne. It said scherzo on it.
This is scherzo, yeah. So I use a lot of, to make it as original as possible here, 2 players only. I do that all the time. So this passage here in my, bar 15 and 16 is just solo. That makes it hard, you know?
Yeah.
You need a very good woodwind group for this piece, yeah.
Yes, but it helps
So-
with the clarity for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
let's go to the next movement, where I took some liberty,
yes.
because this is the famous Nocturne horn solo.
Okay.
In the original, it's with 1 horn and 2 bassoons, but I decided to give it all to the horns.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's the liberty I took as an arranger, because I think it sounds very nice with 3 horns, and the bassoons are just doing the bass part. So
Sure.
see, and that's
Very nice. Very nice. Yes.
yeah. I also had to shorten the Nocturne,
Oh, mm-hmm.
so I made my own ending here,
Okay.
but in the style of Mendelssohn. This is me. This is not Felix.
Oh. Little horn in there.
Yeah. And then comes the famous wedding march. This is fun for the brass. Now they're finding something to play.
Very beautiful. And
So, yeah,
I-
this is actually a fantastic program. If some of you is using Sibelius, I would highly recommend to get Note Performer.
okay.
I'll show you where it is. See, if you use general MIDI, it sounds horrible. It sounds like a little street organ.
Uh-huh.
It's a program that also runs on Finale,
Uh-huh.
and
Yes.
this is how it sounds. It's just reading the score. It sounds like a
Beautiful.
trumpet, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds really much better than what you normally get from Finale.
Yeah.
For sure. Yes. Oh my goodness, Johan, this is a beautiful work. And is it already published or are you
No,
publishing?
not yet. It's coming out pretty soon. Yeah,
Okay. And who is going to premiere it?
I don't know.
Oh, well, there you go. Wow, that's fantastic.
So the ending is the same as the beginning.
Yes. It is.
Where is it?
Oh,
But more fully orchestrated. See, the circle is round, same key.
well. Oh, I'm sorry we're out of time. Well, got to say goodbye here pretty soon, but this has been amazing listening to this particularly.
Oh, thank you.
I can't even imagine what runs around in your head all the time or how you sleep.
Yeah,
What's going on in
I
your,
have so much more to share. I can talk about this all day. It's my
oh, yes.
it's my profession, but it's also my hobby. You can probably tell. I love what I do.
You're such
And,
a you're such a great storyteller within your music, in your composing. You tell stories, and that's really important. And as a musician and a mom myself, I can see that your mother did a good job of making sure you had that creativity and that ability to see things and hear things. And
Yeah.
then all of your background brought that into play in your ability to put it into composition. And my goodness, what a treasure you are to the world
Yeah,
musically.
thank you.
For sure. And we are so honored to have you on our advisory council. My goodness gracious. And we want to thank you for taking some time out of your day today to share this with our membership, as well as anyone that does come then to listen to the recorded as well.
I really enjoyed it, and I saw a lot of friends, and I saw my Dutch friend Maarten de Jong. Hey, Maarten,
Oh,
thanks for
that's
joining.
wonderful.
He's in
Yeah.
Barcelona, but he said he was going to listen. So, and
Yeah.
Raoul Camus, I just saw last week, and Jeff Dobler, Jan Turnage, Jacinta. I know a lot of people, and this is so wonderful.
Yes.
You know, when I go to Chicago, this will be the 32nd time, and I mean, I know really like thousands of people, you know, through my wonderful job, my hobby. So, and I made so many friends all over the world through this, to Midwest, to WASB, you know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
I feel very, very blessed to know so many fantastic people and colleagues and friends. So it was great to talk to you. I wish we had a little more time.
Me
I
too.
have two
Got
more
lots more to
questions. Let's
share.
see. You're saying thank you, thank you.
You're
That's
saying
nice.
thank you and all of that. You're such a gift, especially to ACB. Thank you so much for sharing your time today and your musical path with us. It's just been a treasure to know this. So enjoy the rest of your summer, Johan. It's been great.
Thank you so much. I
Yes.
will try to come to the convention. It's in February or
It is in May, and it's
May.
in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in May of next year.
Oh, and what are the dates? Because
Um,
I would love to come. I've
I
never
think
been to one of your conventions, so
I think it's around the 2nd to the 8th, around in that week somewhere. I can't give you the exact dates off the top of my head, but it's right in that time. 3rd to the 8th. I
oh,
just see it up here, 3rd to the 8th.
empty. So
Oh,
okay.
put your
I'll
name
write it
on
down.
it. That's right.
Yeah,
All right,
and
well,
if you want, I could do a similar session there. You know, for the members.
well, I have a meeting with them coming up, and I will offer that to them.
Yeah, I will. I'll be
Thank
happy
you,
to do that.
Johan. Great. I'm going to send it back now to our ACB host, Larry Lang. Thank you, Johan.
Thanks so much.
We're so glad you could join us today for our conversation with Johan. And Johan, thanks so much for sharing your time and your talent and your history with us. It's been so interesting to hear. I'd also like to thank Gail for hosting today and being our moderator, and to the whole ACB Connects team. We'd like everyone to be a part of ACB. ACB membership dues are half price for first-time members from July 1st through October 1st. You can take advantage of this. The details are on our website, and it's easy to join. And plans are underway for the convention we just mentioned in Santa Fe in May of 2022. And the slides are catching up with me. And the registration for the convention will be open this fall, so you can see more information coming up. For the links mentioned today and to access all previously recorded sessions of ACB Connects, please visit our ACB website homepage at acbands.org. And you'll also find information about becoming an ACB member, details on future sessions, and a wealth of other resources. We'd also love to have you connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where you'll see informative and timely posts. Thank you again for being with us today for this special opportunity to form new connections. We'll look forward to having you again with us at the next session of ACB Connects. Until then, take care.